I was sitting in the doctor's waiting room when my phone rang. It was my daughter, Sophia. Her name on the screen made me smile for a second. She didn't call often these days, but when she did, it usually brightened my day. I answered, already picturing her cheerful voice. But what came through that phone? Didn't sound like my daughter. "Mom," she said, her tone clipped and cold. "We're leaving for Europe tomorrow. I sold your beach house in your car. We needed the money. Bye." Click, just like that. She hung up. For a long, hollow moment, I just sat there. No sound, no breath, just silence. She'd sold my life, and didn't even have the decency to say goodbye. I wanted to scream. To call her back and demand an explanation, but the words wouldn't come. All I could do was stare at my phone while the world around me carried on. The hum of the air conditioner, the scratch of pen on a clipboard, someone coughing in the corner, and I realized, life doesn't stop when yours does. 45 years of motherhood, erased by a single call, but I didn't cry. I sat back, took a slow, steady breath, and smiled, because there was something my dear daughter didn't know. My name is Maria Lopez, and I am 71 years old. And while Sophia believed she had taken everything from me, she had no idea what her father had left behind. 6 months earlier, my husband Daniel died from a heart attack. It happened one peaceful morning, right after breakfast. He had poured me coffee with cream, handed me toast, and kissed my forehead. "Good morning, my love," he'd said. Those were his last words. After the funeral, I felt lost. Days blurred together, and nights stretched endlessly. That's when Sophia started visiting more often. She helped with the funeral, handled bills, even went with me to the doctor. She said she wanted to help me heal, but I couldn't shake the feeling. She was waiting for something. Back then, I thought she was being kind. But sometimes kindness hides sharper edges. One evening, she looked at me across the kitchen table and said, "Mom, maybe it's time you let me handle things. You've never been good with finances." Her tone was sweet, too sweet. And though grief clouded my mind, something deep inside me whispered, "Be careful." I brushed the thought away, convincing myself I was just paranoid, but I wasn't. The beach house she sold wasn't just property. It was a lifetime of memories. Daniel and I bought it when Sophia was 15. We painted it ourselves, sang off-key while fixing the porch, and watched countless sunsets together. It was our family's heart. And she turned it into cash. And the car, Daniel's old Ford truck. He polished it every Sunday. Said, "If you love something, you take care of it." That truck still carried his scent, and now it belonged to someone else. That night, I sat alone by the window, watching the shadows slide across the walls. Grief used to fill this house, but now something else began to stir. Resolve. Because I remembered something. 3 days before Daniel died, he'd handed me a sealed envelope. "Keep this safe," he said. "If anything happens to me, open it when you're ready." I'd tucked it into the dresser drawer and never touched it again. Until now. The next day, the nurse called my name at the clinic, but I could barely focus. The doctor said my health was fine, for my age, at least, but my thoughts were already home, in that drawer. When I got back, I didn't even take off my coat. I went straight to the bedroom and opened the drawer. There it was. The envelope, untouched, waiting. Daniel's handwriting curved across it in the same neat script he used to label everything in the house. My hands trembled. I held it close to my chest for a moment, afraid of what it might reveal. The paper smelled faintly of Daniel's cologne, the cedar one he wore every morning for 40 years. That scent alone was enough to break me. If only I had opened it sooner, I whispered. Maybe none of this would have happened. I tore the envelope open carefully, as if it might crumble. Inside were several documents and a letter folded neatly in half. I hesitated. Part of me didn't want to know, but curiosity? It has a way of dragging you forward, even when you're not ready. My dear Maria, the letter began. If you're reading this, it means I am no longer with you. Forgive me for not telling you everything while I was alive. I only wanted to protect you. Protect me? From what? I stopped reading. The words started to blur. There were other papers, official-looking, covered in stamps and signatures. But one red mark stood out, a seal I didn't recognize. And beneath it, Daniel's signature. Beside another name, I blinked, a company name. One I'd never heard before. But before I could read more, my phone buzzed sharply, startling me. Sophia. Mom, she said softly. Too softly. We transferred your share from the sale. It's not much, but it'll help you live comfortably for a while. My share? I asked. Yes, 30%. That's fair, right? Mark needs the rest for our investment. It's a huge opportunity. She said it was for an investment, but there was something in her tone. Like she was hiding something more. Something she didn't want me to see. What kind of investment, Sophia? She hesitated. Oh, just something overseas. You wouldn't understand, Mom. And that was it. The dismissal, the condescension. As if I were a burden, not a mother. Well, I said softly, safe travels. You've always been so understanding, she said, and hung up. When the silence returned, I laughed quietly to myself. The sound surprised me. She thought she'd taken everything. But she had no idea that the real story hadn't even begun. That night, I placed Daniel's papers neatly back on the table. Under the lamp's glow, the pages looked alive, full of hidden meaning. Protect me from what, Daniel? I whispered. What secret were you keeping? The next morning, I called Mr. Harlan, Daniel's old lawyer. He'd handled our will, attended the funeral, even sent flowers afterward. Mrs. Lopez, he said gently. How are you holding up? I found something Daniel left me, I replied. It might be important. Bring it to my office tomorrow, he said. We'll go through it together. That night I dreamt of Daniel again. He was sitting by the window, newspaper in hand. When he looked up, his expression was calm, but his eyes were warning me. It's time, Maria, he said. It's time you find the truth. I woke up drenched in cold sweat, heart pounding. The clock read 3:17 a.m. outside. The world was still, but deep down, I knew something was beginning. The next morning, I dressed carefully. The navy blue dress Daniel always said made me look elegant. Before leaving, I looked at myself in the mirror. For months, I'd seen a widow. Now I saw a woman about to uncover something she was never meant to find. I slipped the envelope into my bag and stepped outside. The air was cool and quiet. As I locked the door behind me, I thought I heard a car engine idling somewhere down the street, low, steady, patient. When I turned, the road was empty. Still, a shiver crawled down my spine. As Maria heads toward the lawyer's office, she doesn't know that one signature inside those papers will uncover a secret her husband died to protect, and a truth that could destroy her daughter's future forever. The morning felt colder than usual, not just in weather but in warning. There was something in the air, like the world itself was whispering, "Don't go." But I went anyway. The city was waking slowly, wrapped in gray mist. Cars passed. Strangers hurried by. Everything looked ordinary, but nothing felt safe. I held Daniel's envelope tight in my hands, the paper edges digging softly into my skin. Somewhere deep down, I already knew. This wasn't going to be a normal day. Mr. Harlan's office sat on the corner of an old brick building downtown. When I opened the door, a soft bell chimed, the same sound from years ago when Daniel and I first came here to sign our will. The scent of wood polish and old paper hit me. It smelled like memories, heavy, slow, and permanent. Mr. Harlan looked up from behind his desk. Silver hair, kind eyes, calm as ever. "Maria," he said warmly, standing to greet me. "It's good to see you again." I managed a faint smile. "It's been a while." He gestured for me to sit. "What brings you here?" "This," I said, handing him the envelope. "Daniel left it for me before he passed. Said I'd need it someday." He took it carefully, like it was something sacred, and began to read. The room fell silent except for the soft rustle of paper. I watched his eyes move across the pages, his brow furrowing slightly, his lips tightening. Something was wrong. Minutes passed before he looked up. "Maria," he said slowly, "did you know about this company?" I frowned. "What company?" He turned the document toward me. Across the top, in bold red print, were the words, "Lumina Industries, Ltd." I shook my head. "No, I've never heard of it." He hesitated. "It's registered under Daniel's name. And yours. You're listed as co-owner." For a moment I thought I'd misheard him. "Co-owner?" I repeated. "That can't be right." Daniel ran a small construction firm. He hated anything complicated. Mr. Harlan flipped a page. "This isn't construction, Maria, it's research. Something called Private Development and Innovation Projects. The company's over 15 years old." I blinked. "Research into what?" He adjusted his glasses. "It doesn't say. But what's interesting is this." He tapped a line near the bottom of the document. "Primary beneficiary, Sophia Lopez." My heart dropped. "Sophia?" I whispered. He nodded slowly. "Your daughter. She's the sole beneficiary." I stared at the words until they blurred. The letters didn't even look real. Why would Daniel leave something like this to her? I said quietly. "He never mentioned any of this to me. Not once." Mr. Harlan sighed. "Whatever this company is, it's valuable. Very valuable. Possibly worth millions." Millions. The word didn't sound real either. The silence between us grew thick. I stared at Daniel's name beside mine on those papers, and for the first time since his death I felt something new. Not grief, not love, fear. "Mr. Harlan," I asked softly, "do you think he was hiding this from me?" He looked at me gently. "Maybe not hiding, maybe protecting." I tried to swallow, but my throat felt tight. Protecting me from what? He hesitated again. There's more. Several pages are marked confidential. I can't access them without an authorization code. Did Daniel ever give you one? I shook my head. No. But maybe he left something else behind. He began gathering the papers neatly. But something in his expression had changed, cautious, uncertain. Maria, he said finally, there's one more thing. I waited. A man came by 2 weeks ago asking about Daniel's estate. Claimed to be from a consulting firm, but when I asked for ID, he left immediately. What did he look like? Tall, dark coat, late 40s. Calm, too calm. He left this. He handed me a business card. No name, no number. Just a black circle, with a flame in the center. My fingers froze. The symbol? It felt familiar. Somewhere deep in my memory, it stirred. A flash of red light. Daniel's voice sang sharply, Maria, don't ever go near that building again. I didn't remember when he'd said it, only how it made me feel. Cold. When I stepped back out into the street, the mist had thickened. The world looked softer, quieter, dangerous. I clutched the envelope tight against my chest, glancing over my shoulder. No one there. But still, the feeling of being watched lingered like static. On the bus home, I replayed everything. The company. The symbol. Sophia's name. She said she needed the money for an investment. But what kind of investment made her voice tremble when she said it? This wasn't just greed. It was fear. When I reached home, I locked the door and drew every curtain shut. The silence inside the house pressed against me. I laid the papers on the kitchen table again, my pulse echoing in my ears. That's when I noticed something new. A page I hadn't seen before, folded between two others, a contract renewal form, unsigned, dated just 2 weeks before Daniel's death. At the bottom was a name written in dark ink, Mark Rivera, my son-in-law. The world tilted for a second. I stared at that name, unable to breathe. In a flash, images hit me, like shards of glass. Mark standing too close to Daniel at the funeral. Sophia whispering to him, avoiding my eyes. Daniel coughing at breakfast, his hand trembling over his cup. The memories layered themselves into something ugly. Daniel, I whispered, did you know? The room seemed to shrink around me, because suddenly the truth was no longer about money. It was about betrayal. That night I sat on my bed clutching Daniel's letter. The scent of his cologne was faint now, but still there, the ghost of him lingering. I read the first line again. Forgive me for not telling you everything. Not something. That meant there was more, maybe much more. Then my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I froze. My fingers hovered over the screen. Every instinct told me not to answer, but I did. Mrs. Lopez? The voice was male, low, controlled, too controlled. Yes. Who is this? A pause. Long enough to feel deliberate. Your husband trusted me, he said. But you need to stop looking into Lumina Industries. My chest tightened. What are you talking about? You're in danger. Leave the papers alone. Some things are better buried. Who are you? I demanded. Someone who's trying to keep you alive, he said. Then the line went dead. The silence afterward felt deafening. My own breath was the only sound I could hear. Someone was watching me. Someone who knew exactly what I had found. I rushed to the window and pulled the curtain slightly aside. Across the street, a black car sat idling under a flickering streetlight. Its windshield glinted faintly like a camera lens catching light. I stared for nearly a full minute. No movement, but I could feel it. Eyes on me. I locked every door and window before going to bed. Then I slid the documents into a small lockbox beneath my bed. The clock ticked past midnight. I didn't sleep. I just sat there, listening to the faint hum of that car engine fading away. By morning, the car was gone. The sky was a washed-out gray, heavy with the promise of rain. I stood by the window, coffee in hand, staring out at the empty street. For the first time, I whispered aloud what I'd been afraid to think. "Daniel, did someone kill you?" No answer, only the soft rattle of wind against the window. But in my heart, I already knew. This wasn't over, because some secrets don't die with the person who keeps them. They wait for someone to open the wrong door. As Maria digs deeper into Lumina Industries, she's about to uncover a hidden message Daniel left behind, hidden in an ordinary object she's had for years. And once she finds it, the truth about his death will no longer be a mystery. It will be a threat. The morning after the call, the sky was the color of ashes. It wasn't raining, but the air smelled like it wanted to. I hadn't slept at all. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the man's voice, calm, dark, warning. "You're in danger. Leave the papers alone." And maybe so did I, because the truth is, once you start digging up the past, it starts digging back. By noon, the house felt wrong. The kind of quiet that doesn't comfort. It watches. I made tea just to have a sound in the kitchen, but even the whistle of the kettle made me flinch. I sat at the table, staring at the lockbox under the bed. It called to me, silent, patient. Finally, I gave in. I pulled it out, set it on the table, and opened it slowly. The papers were still there, folded neatly. But this time, I noticed something else. At the bottom of the box lay a small brass key, old, worn, with a single letter L engraved on it. I turned it over in my hand, confused. It wasn't from this house. And Daniel never mentioned a safe, at least, not one I knew of. Then I heard it. A faint thud, somewhere near the porch. I froze. The air seemed to hold its breath. And then, the doorbell rang. My pulse jumped. I stayed perfectly still, listening. A shadow moved across the frosted glass. Then a voice, light, cheerful, too normal for the tension in my chest. "Good morning, Mrs. Lopez. Delivery for you." I exhaled slowly, forcing my voice steady. "1 second. When I opened the door, a young courier smiled at me. "Prepaid package," he said. "Need your signature." I signed quickly and took the box. It was small, light, no return label. When I saw what was inside, my hands went cold. It was Daniel's old jewelry box, the one that used to sit on his desk. I sat down, staring at it. The carvings along the edges were familiar. Tiny waves and leaves, Daniel once said, reminded him of the beach house. I brushed the dust off the brass latch and opened it carefully. Inside was a folded note. And underneath, a small black flash drive. My breath caught. The note was in Daniel's handwriting. "If you found this, it means they know. Do not trust anyone, not even Sophia. The answers are inside the drive. But be careful. Once you see them, there's no going back. They know. The words hit like ice water. Who were they? And what could be so dangerous that Daniel would hide it from everyone? Even me? The flash drive was unmarked, but on its side, scratched faintly in silver, was that same flame symbol from the card Mr. Harlan had shown me. I knew I'd seen it before. A memory flashed, a drive through the industrial district years ago. Daniel's voice, tense as we passed a building with that same glowing red symbol. Don't look at that, Maria. Some doors aren't meant to be opened. And now here it was, sitting in my hand. I didn't have a computer at home, so I took the flash drive to the community library near the park. The walk there was a blur, just wind, footsteps, and a constant unease crawling up my spine. Inside, the librarian smiled at me. "Computers are free today, Mrs. Lopez." I nodded politely and sat at the far corner terminal, away from everyone. My hands shook as I plugged in the drive. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then a single folder appeared, Eclipse. I hesitated, then opened it. 2 files. A text document and a short video. I opened the document first. It read, "If you're reading this, Maria, then they've already found out I know. Lumina wasn't what I told you it was. It began as research, but they changed it. They were building something dangerous. I tried to stop them. I couldn't. They used our company to hide it." My heart pounded as I scrolled down. I left the evidence in a place no one will think to look, where love hides behind time. You'll know it when you see it. That was it. No sign-off. Just that strange clue. Where love hides behind time. I opened the video next. The screen stayed black for a few seconds, then flickered. Daniel appeared. He looked tired, older, scared, like he hadn't slept in days. "Maria," he said quietly, "if you're watching this, I'm gone. I didn't want you dragged into this. But you deserve the truth." He paused, looked down, breathed hard, as if deciding whether to tell me the rest. "They'll come for what I hid," he continued. "But they can't find it. Not unless you lead them to it. So please, don't." He hesitated again, eyes glancing past the camera, like someone else was in the room. Then he whispered something barely audible. It sounded like the clock, and the video ended. I sat frozen, staring at the dark screen. My heart hammered against my ribs. The clock. He meant the antique wall clock in our living room. The one that stopped ticking the morning after he died. Where love hides behind time. It all connected. I hurried home. Every sound on the street made me turn. Footsteps. An engine, a door slamming. When I reached the house, I locked the door and went straight to the living room. The clock hung in its usual place above the fireplace, still, silent, its hands frozen at 8:17. I pulled a chair over and carefully lifted it down. It was heavier than I remembered. On the back, under a layer of dust, was a small metal panel. I used a butter knife to pry it open. Inside was a tiny velvet pouch. My breath hitched. I slid it open and found a memory card and a folded note. Daniel's handwriting again. "If you found this, you're closer than I ever was." The card holds proof of what they did. Don't go to the police. Don't go to Harlan. Trust no one, especially not Mark. Mark. I froze. My pulse roared in my ears. I bent down to pick up the memory card, but before my fingers touched it, I felt it. The hair on my arms rose. That instinct. The kind your body feels before your mind understands. Then I heard it, a faint click like a camera shutter. I turned slowly toward the window. The curtain moved slightly in the breeze. I stepped closer and pulled it aside. A reflection glinted back at me. A camera lens flashing from across the street. Then, darkness. The car that had been parked outside for days was gone. I backed away, shaking. Someone was watching me. Someone who knew exactly what I'd just found. I dropped the memory card, scrambled to pick it up, and shoved it under the table runner. The silence was unbearable. Then, outside, a car door slammed. An engine started and faded into the distance. I stood in that quiet house, my heart still racing. Then I whispered into the air, not to the house, not to the walls, but to whoever might be listening. "You took Daniel from me," I said softly. "Now I'm coming for you." As Maria prepares to uncover the proof Daniel left behind, she'll soon face a visitor claiming to be the only person her husband ever trusted. A man whose arrival may save her, or finish what Lumina started. By the time dawn arrived, fear had already settled into the walls. I hadn't slept, not even for a second. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint hum of the refrigerator, the whisper of wind against the window pane. Daniel's words wouldn't stop echoing in my mind. Trust no one, especially not Mark. The house creaked in the silence, expanding and contracting with the cold. Each sound made my pulse skip. I thought I'd known fear before, but this was different. This fear had a face, unseen, waiting. By morning, the air felt heavier. Even sunlight looked different, thin, gray, cautious. I made coffee I couldn't drink, just to fill the silence. The smell was hollow comfort. I sat at the kitchen table, the memory card hidden beneath the table runner, my hands wrapped tightly around the warm mug. My thoughts circled the same questions again and again. Who was watching me? Why hadn't they come closer? What were they waiting for? The clock on the wall ticked louder than usual. Tick, 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 each second stretching longer than it should. Then came a sound. Faint, distant, like a soft tap outside, maybe a boot on gravel or a door gently closing. My breath caught, and then 3 knocks, short, calm, deliberate. I froze mid-step, eyes on the front door. No voice followed, just silence pressing in. When I finally peeked through the curtain, a tall man stood on my porch. Gray coat, still posture, expression unreadable. Not the courier. Not a neighbor. But somehow, familiar. I hesitated before opening the door an inch. "Mrs. Lopez?" he said, voice even and low. "Yes," I answered carefully. "My name is David Reyes," he said. "I worked with your husband." The words landed like a tremor in my chest. "You knew Daniel?" He nodded. "A long time ago. Before Lumina changed, that name again." Lumina. It chilled the air just hearing it spoken aloud. I studied him. Dark hair streaked with gray, eyes sharp but tired. Something about his gaze made it hard to tell if he was friend or predator. "How did you find me?" I asked. He gave a faint smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Daniel told me that if anything ever happened to him, I should come to you." I waited, until it felt safe enough to do so. I stayed silent. Proof, I said finally. If you worked with him, prove it. He reached into his coat, slow, deliberate, and pulled out a photograph. Daniel stood beside him in the picture, both younger, smiling faintly in front of a building. Behind them, the flame logo glowed on the wall. My chest tightened. That same mark, the one Daniel had warned me to stay away from years ago. I stepped back and opened the door wider. Come in. David entered cautiously, glancing around the room. The shelves, the windows, the shadows. His gaze stopped at the empty space on the wall where the clock had hung. You found it? He said quietly. My voice came out rough. Yes, I did, he nodded. Then you already know more than they wanted you to. He sat across from me at the table. For a moment, he didn't speak. Then, softly, Daniel trusted you. That means I can too. I wanted to believe him. But trust was no longer something I gave freely. Who are they? I asked. The people behind Lumina, he said. The ones Daniel tried to expose. They were using the company for human trials, testing a formula that could alter memory and aging. They needed test subjects. They used the poor, the sick, the forgotten. I felt my stomach twist. Daniel found out? He nodded. He tried to stop them. That's why he died. My hands trembled around the mug. I could barely breathe. He leaned forward. They'll come for you next, Maria. You have something they want. That memory card. It's the last piece of Daniel's research. I shook my head. I'm just a widow. Why would they? Because they think you know how to decrypt it, he said quietly. Daniel protected you by making them believe you do. I stared at him, trying to process it. A mix of grief, disbelief, and a strange spark of anger rose inside me. How long have you known all this? He looked away. Too long. The room fell into a long silence. Outside, the light was fading into dusk. Through the curtain's slit, I caught a faint orange glow, like a cigarette burning in the distance. It pulsed once, then vanished. They're out there, David murmured. Always watching. Always waiting. My pulse quickened. Then why are you here? He turned back to me, eyes steady. Because Daniel left me one last task, to keep you alive. He stood. Pack what you can. We have to move before dark, I hesitated. And if I don't? Then they'll come inside, he said simply. And when they do, it won't be to talk. I didn't argue after that. I went to the bedroom, grabbed Daniel's papers, my purse, and the card. My reflection in the mirror stopped me. Eyes tired, fear carved deep, but not broken. For a brief second, I felt Daniel's presence beside me. Not in the air, but in my resolve. When I returned, David was peering through the window again. The car's still there, he said. They're patient. That's what makes them dangerous, I swallowed. Then let's not test their patience. He gave a quick nod, and we stepped out into the cold evening. The street was slick with rain. The black sedan sat under the streetlight, its windshield dark, no movement inside. We crossed the road toward David's car, but halfway there, he stopped suddenly. Get down, he whispered. We crouched behind the curb just as the sedan's engine roared to life. Headlights flared, cutting through the rain. It sped past, too fast, too deliberate, and disappeared around the corner. David exhaled, tense. They know we're leaving. We climbed into his car, a faded gray Toyota. Inside, the air smelled faintly of coffee and metal. "Where are we going?" I asked. "A safe place. Somewhere Daniel used to hide research prototypes. They won't think to look there." As the city faded behind us, darkness thickened around the car. The rhythm of the windshield wipers matched the racing of my heart. Finally, I asked the question I'd been holding back. "Why are you really helping me?" He kept his eyes on the road. "Because Daniel trusted me once. And I failed him." His voice cracked. The first sign of something human. "I won't fail him again." After an hour, we turned onto a dirt path leading through the woods. Branches brushed against the car like fingers. At the end of the road stood a small cabin beside a lake, shrouded in fog. David parked and cut the engine. "This used to be his," he said quietly. "No one else knows it exists." Inside, the air was stale and cold. A single oil lamp flickered on a table. David pulled out his laptop. "Let's see what's on the card." I hesitated. "Daniel said once I see it, there's no going back." He met my eyes. "You've already gone too far." I handed him the memory card. He slotted it in, the screen filled with files, names, dates, and formulas. Then one folder stood out, Project Solace. He opened it. Photos appeared. People in hospital gowns, machines humming, blurred faces. I covered my mouth. "Dear God!" "They were testing on humans," he said quietly. "Daniel tried to expose them. That's why they erased him." My throat tightened. "And now they'll erase me too." Before he could answer, something outside cracked. A sharp sound, like a branch snapping under a boot. We both froze. David turned off the lamp. Darkness swallowed the room. In the silence, we heard it. The slow, deliberate crunch of boots on gravel. Getting closer. The light is gone. The footsteps draw near. But who stepped into that darkness? A savior? Or the man sent to silence her? The night didn't just watch us, it remembered. Every sound seemed alive. The floorboards whispered beneath our feet. The walls breathed with the cold. Outside, the footsteps came closer. Slow. Measured. I could hear gravel grinding under a heavy boot. My heartbeat synced with it. One step. One pulse. David's finger rose to his lips. "Stay quiet," he mouthed. His other hand reached into his coat. And the soft click that followed told me he wasn't. Looking for comfort, the footsteps stopped just outside. A faint shadow sliced through the light beneath the... Or 3 slow knocks followed. That sound again. The same rhythm that had brought David to my house. He froze. I could see the tension crawl up his neck. The door handle turned slightly. Testing. Not forcing. Then silence. Even the forest outside seemed to hold its breath. Then a voice. Calm, deliberate. Almost rehearsed. "David." "Open the door." "It's me." David's eyes flicked toward the sound. I could feel the air shift, heavy with recognition. He didn't answer. The voice came again, closer. "I know you're in there. We need to talk," I whispered. "Who is it?" His jaw clenched. "Mark." That single name shattered the fragile quiet between us. I felt my stomach twist. "Mark? The one Daniel said not to trust?" David's silence said enough. He stepped toward the window and peeked through the curtain. A tall figure stood outside. Coat glistening from the rain, his face half lit by the porch lamp. David muttered under his breath. He shouldn't have found us this soon. Who is he, really? I asked, Daniel's former partner. The one who took over Lumina when Daniel tried to shut it down. And you're telling me he's— Yes, David said. He's the one who gave the order. My hands turned cold. The voice outside came again, calm, persuasive. David, you know how this ends. Open the door before they arrive. David hesitated. His breathing had changed, faster, uneven. I saw it before he spoke. The flicker of guilt in his eyes. David, I whispered. How does he know your name? How did he find us? He didn't answer. Instead, he unplugged the laptop, slid the memory card into his pocket, and turned toward me, his face pale in the flickering light. Because, he said quietly, I told him. The world went silent, my breath caught, my throat dry. You. What? He looked away, his voice breaking. He had my daughter, Maria. He said if I didn't help, he'd kill her. I didn't know it would go this far. I stepped back slowly, the words sinking in like ice. So everything, saving me, bringing me here, was just a setup? No, he said quickly. At first, yes, but not now. I couldn't hand you over. Not after I saw what Daniel left. I shook my head, the betrayal cutting deeper than fear. I trusted you. He swallowed hard. I didn't deserve it. The door shuddered, once then again. Wood cracked. David raised his gun. Down! The door burst open, slamming against the wall. 2 men stormed in, one with a flashlight, the other aiming straight ahead. Behind them stepped Mark. Composed, confident. The storm framed him like a shadow made human. Maria, he said softly, you've been busy. His tone was almost gentle, but his eyes were cold. David pointed the gun. Don't move. Mark lifted his hands, the ghost of a smile on his face. Relax, if I wanted you dead, you'd already be. Then what do you want? I said. He looked at me, not like a person, but like a key. To finish what Daniel started. You mean the program that killed him? Mark tilted his head slightly. You think Daniel was innocent? He built the formula, Maria. He just couldn't live with what it became. The room spun around me. I couldn't tell what was truth anymore. Mark took a slow step forward. Your husband didn't destroy the data. He secured it and tied the encryption to something only you could unlock. David frowned. What do you mean? Mark's eyes never left mine. The algorithm requires a biological match. Maria's DNA. She's the key. For a second, I didn't breathe. What? Mark nodded. Daniel used your blood to encode it. You're the failsafe, Maria. The living password. The words tore through me. It wasn't just shock. It was betrayal all over again. Daniel had loved me, protected me, and yet he'd made me part of his secret. A piece of his experiment. My knees went weak. I gripped the chair to stay standing. Images flooded my mind. The late nights, the locked office, the quiet apologies he never explained. Now they all made sense. He wasn't keeping me safe. He was keeping me essential. David looked at me, horror in his eyes. You didn't know— I shook my head slowly. No, I didn't, Mark's voice softened. You were never supposed to. He wanted you to live, not remember. I felt tears burn behind my eyes. If he wanted me to live, I said, he wouldn't have turned me into a key. Mark sighed. Give me the card, Maria. It's the only way this ends clean. David fired a warning shot. The bullet split the air beside Mark's head, tearing through the wooden beam. Mark didn't even flinch. He just smiled faintly. "You're still predictable, David." He raised a hand, a subtle signal. The two men behind him moved instantly. Gunfire erupted. The sound shattered the stillness, echoing through the cabin like thunder. Glass exploded. Wood splintered. I hit the floor, covering my ears. Heart slamming against my ribs. The oil lamp fell, flickered, then went out. Darkness swallowed everything. Then, silence. The kind that hums after chaos. I looked up, blinking through smoke. David was crouched beside me, breathing hard. "You okay?" I nodded shakily. "Stay low," he whispered. "We can't—" A voice cut through the dark. "You can't run forever, Maria." Mark's voice, calm, steady. But when I turned toward the sound, he was gone. Outside, an engine roared. Tires spun on gravel. David ran to the window. "He's leaving." He grabbed my arm. "We have to move before—" And that's when we heard it. A faint, high-pitched whine, rising, pulsing, unnatural. David's eyes widened. "Get down!" We dove behind the table. A heartbeat later, boom! The cabin exploded in a violent blast of heat and sound. Wood splintered. Glass shattered. Fire roared. The force threw us both to the ground. When the ringing in my ears faded, all I could hear was the crackle of fire. The cabin, Daniel's memories, his secrets, all burning. David pulled me up, coughing. "Don't stop! Run!" We stumbled through the trees, the forest lit orange behind us. Rain hissed against the flames. I didn't look back. Not until the shock wave hit, throwing sparks into the night like fireflies. The smell of smoke clung to my hair, my clothes, my skin, and somewhere inside, grief turned to fury. We reached the road, breathless. David's car waited just ahead, half hidden by the dark. "Go," he said. "Now." I was about to climb in when I saw it. A red glint cutting through the shadows. "A laser sight! David!" He turned. The sound came a second later, a sharp, cracking echo. The world slowed. His body jerked back, the red light blooming across his chest. He staggered, eyes wide, blood blooming like a dark flower. He fell to his knees. I ran to him, catching him before he hit the ground. "David, no, no." He tried to speak, his breath shallow, trembling. "Don't stop," he whispered. "Find the vault." "What vault?" I cried. "Where?" His eyes met mine, dim but steady. "You'll—" "No." Then his hand fell away. For a moment there was no sound, just rain, and my heartbeat breaking itself apart. David is gone. Mark has vanished, and Maria holds the only key written into her own blood. But what if Daniel's vault wasn't built to protect the world? What if it was meant to end it? Rain fell like ash. Cold, relentless, silent. David's blood still clung to my hands, warm when it shouldn't have been. It didn't feel real. Nothing did. The forest behind me burned with what was left of Daniel's secrets, glowing orange against the night. Pain had to mean something. Mine would become the map, and echoing through the smoke were his last words. "Find the vault." I didn't know where to begin. But Daniel always left breadcrumbs. tiny puzzles wrapped in love. I emptied my pockets on a bus stop bench, a lighter, a photograph, and the small brass key with the letter L. Maybe that was the first breadcrumb. By morning, the rain eased. Mist curled above the highway like breath. I boarded the first bus toward the city, the key clenched tight in my palm. The window fogged, and for a moment I saw Daniel's reflection beside mine, smiling, patient, silent. 3 hours later, I stepped off near the riverfront. The water smelled of rust and old secrets. I walked until the streets forgot their names, until warehouses replaced houses. There, half hidden by ivy, stood a tall concrete building. Lumina Storage, Unit 17. A pulse of memory hit me. Daniel bringing me here once, laughing as he carried a box too heavy for one man. He said it was just tools. Now I knew better. Inside, the air was sharp with oil and dust. Each step echoed through the hollow space like footsteps in a grave. My flashlight skimmed over rusted shelves and collapsed crates until it stopped on an elevator half covered by a tarp. Its buttons were dark, corroded, but just above them, a small keyhole. The brass key slid in perfectly. When I turned it, a low hum rumbled beneath the floor. The doors shuddered open, the elevator groaned as it sank. The deeper it went, the colder the air became. Damp and metallic, a distorted voice crackled from an unseen speaker. "Welcome, Dr. Lopez." The sound of his name, spoken by a machine, made my stomach tighten. When the lift stopped, the doors parted onto a narrow corridor lit by blue emergency lights. At the end waited a reinforced door with a glowing panel that read, "Access requires bio-identification." I hesitated only a second, then placed my hand on the pad. A hidden needle slid out. The needle bit deeper than expected. The sting pulled a gasp from me. A drop of blood spread across the scanner. 2 beeps. The door sighed open. The room beyond looked untouched for years. Desks buried in dust. Monitors cracked like old bones. Binders stamped with the Project Solace flame emblem, the same mark that had haunted my dreams. But what stopped me wasn't the clutter. It was the tank in the center of the room, tall, cylindrical, filled with pale blue liquid. And inside it, something human. I stepped closer, heart hammering. A young figure floated motionless, tethered by tubes and wires. A small plaque read, "Subject 0, Prototype Memory Retention." My knees nearly gave way. The monitor beside the tank flickered alive and began to play an old recording. Video log, Project Solace, 11 years ago. Daniel's face filled the screen, tired but certain. "This is Dr. Daniel Lopez, Cycle 12. Subject shows complete retention of injected data. The mind accepts what it's told." He paused, exhaled. But at what cost? Solace was supposed to heal, not rewrite. They want soldiers, not patients. He leaned closer. "If anyone finds this, shut it down. Destroy everything." The feed cut to static. I stood frozen, the silence pressing in. "Daniel," I whispered. "You knew." Grief rose sharp and hot. He had tried to stop them and died for it. I touched the cold glass of the tank. Was this his redemption or his curse? For a moment, I wondered if he'd built Solace to make people forget pain, maybe even to erase me from his own guilt. Another monitor blinked on. "Unlock final archive?" I hit yes. A map appeared, coordinates tracing under the city's river. Then a line of Daniel's handwriting scrolled across the screen. Solace was never a project. It was a safeguard. Before I could grasp what that meant, a faint metallic click echoed behind me. "Who's there?" I called. No answer, just the soft scrape of boots. Then a voice, smooth, unhurried, too familiar. Impressive. "Maria, I didn't think you'd make it this far." Mark. He stepped from the corridor's blue glow, rain still on his coat, gun in hand. "How did you—" He smirked. The key transmitted a signal. Daniel designed it that way. I backed toward the tank. "Why are you here?" "To finish what he started," he said. Daniel built a weapon that can rewrite memory. Imagine it, an obedient world. No war, no rebellion, just peace. I felt nausea rise. "You mean control?" Mark's eyes glittered. "Control is peace." And then it hit me. Mark didn't want the truth. He wanted ownership of it. He raised the gun. "Give me the coordinates." I took another step back. "If I refuse?" He sighed, patient. "Then I'll take them like we took them from him." "You killed him," I said. He didn't blink. Daniel made his choice. Something inside me cracked. "No, he chose me." A sudden alarm blared. The tank behind me began to shake, bubbles rising like trapped ghosts. Mark's eyes widened. "What did you do?" I looked down. Blood from my pricked finger had dripped onto the console. The system was reading it. Red lights flashed. A metallic voice warned, "Bioseal breach detected." The glass split with a deep groan. Cracks spider-webbed outward. "Maria, move!" Mark shouted, but I couldn't. All I could do was watch. The tank burst. Blue liquid poured across the floor, then silence, thick, suspended. And in that breathless quiet, the figure inside slumped forward. They hit the ground with a hollow thud. Slowly, trembling, they opened their eyes. It wasn't Daniel. Not exactly, but the eyes, those same storm gray eyes, were his. I staggered backward, shock and longing crashing together. Mark swore under his breath, raising his gun. "Step away from it." I didn't move. "Who is that?" "Not who what," he said. "It's Daniel's memory mapped onto a host. A clone built to remember everything he knew." The horror struck deep. Daniel hadn't died for his work. He'd buried himself in it. The being on the floor gasped, struggling upright, wires dangling. Its voice was weak, raw. "Maria." "Run, I froze." Even broken and artificial, the sound of my name in his voice shattered me. Mark's face hardened. "If it remembers everything, we're done. The failsafe can't hold." He aimed. I grabbed a metal pipe from the debris and swung, knocking the gun aside. It clattered across the tiles. He stumbled into the console. Sparks flew. Alarms screamed. The creature, Daniel's echo, looked at me through the haze. "Don't let them rewrite me again." Mark's voice cracked. "It's not him, Maria. It's his weapon." But I couldn't tell the difference anymore. I grabbed the memory card from the desk, shoved it into my pocket. The power surged, lights flaring, systems rebooting. "Maria!" Mark shouted, backing toward the door. "If that thing wakes fully, it'll trigger every sequence he locked away." The echo stood now, trembling, dripping blue fluid, eyes glowing faintly. It smiled, Daniel's smile. "Maria," it whispered, "you found me." My throat closed. I didn't know whether to reach for it or run. He's gone. Yet he's here. If Daniel's memory lives inside that body, then what exactly did he build to protect the world? And somewhere deep inside me, something remembered too. For a moment, everything stopped. The alarms, the hum of the machines, even my heartbeat. The figure stood there, dripping blue fluid, trembling like something half-born. He looked like Daniel, but not quite. He moved like someone remembering how to be human. And when his eyes, those same storm-gray eyes, met mine, the world felt dangerously small. Maria. My name left his lips softly, like a prayer dragged out of static. And for that fragile second, I forgot to breathe. Mark was the first to move. He backed toward the door, gun shaking in his hand. "It's not him," he hissed. "It's a construct, a program tied to the Solace Core." But I barely heard him. The figure took a small step forward, unsteady, water dripping from his fingertips. "Daniel?" I whispered. He blinked slowly, his expression flickering between confusion and recognition. "Am I Daniel?" The question hurt more than anything he could have said. Mark barked, "Get away from it!" His voice snapped through the cold air. The figure turned toward him. "Mark," he said, calm, familiar, devastatingly certain. Mark froze. "You remember me?" Daniel, or whatever he was, nodded once. "I remember everything, every order, every lie." Mark's composure cracked. "You don't know what you've done," Mark said. "He's not a man. He's the core of Solace." I turned toward him. "Then tell me what Solace really is." Mark's tone hardened, fear buried under anger. "It's not memory, it's replication. That thing learns, spreads, becomes everything." He took a step closer, eyes fixed on Daniel. "Daniel built it. I weaponized it." The words hit me like a slap. Daniel's voice trembled, but his words carried an old authority. "You turned my design into a weapon, Mark. It was meant to heal, to erase suffering." Mark snapped, "You built an infection. I contained it." Their voices echoed off the metal walls, two ghosts arguing over the ruins of a world they'd both destroyed, and me, caught between them, still bleeding from every truth I'd uncovered. My mind screamed to run, I thought. My heart. It only remembered his voice. I stepped closer to Daniel's echo. "Did you really want this?" I asked. "To rewrite people?" He looked down, his reflection rippling in the puddles of blue. "I wanted peace," he said softly. "A world without pain." But they twisted it. He looked at me, and in that instant, I saw the man I once loved. "The system's corrupted," he continued. "I can fix it, make it pure again." Mark's gun lifted slightly. "That's not repair," he growled. "That's activation." Daniel ignored him. He turned back to me, eyes full of quiet desperation. "You have to help me finish it, Maria. The real Solace, not the weapon." Mark's tone sharpened like glass. "Don't listen to him. That's how he starts it. That's the protocol." Daniel's voice grew softer. "Trust me. One last time." I shook my head, trembling, Why should I? You left me with nothing but ghosts. His face broke. I left you with hope. Mark moved first, gun raised. I stepped between them. No! Move, Maria! He shouted. You don't know what you're protecting. Neither do you, I fired back. For a moment, no one moved. Then Daniel lifted his hand, and the air itself seemed to shift. The lights dimmed, the walls vibrated, a low hum crawling under my skin. Mark stumbled. What the hell are you doing? Daniel spoke like he was remembering an ancient prayer. Memories shape reality. Let me show you. The world blurred, sound folded in on itself, and suddenly, I was no longer in the lab. Sunlight streamed through our living room window. The coffee was still warm. Daniel stood by the fireplace, smiling the way he used to. Do you remember this day? He asked gently. I could smell the rain outside. I could feel his touch. Tears burned behind my eyes. You can't be real, he smiled. I'm a memory, but memories can choose what to become. The world rippled. The light fractured, and I was back, in the cold lab, the alarms blaring once more. Mark lay sprawled on the floor, eyes wide, breathing hard. Daniel's echo was shaking, the glow in his eyes fading like dying embers. My time's running out, he said weakly. The core's unstable. If it overloads, it'll erase everything. Then shut it down, I cried. I can't. Only you can. He pointed at the console. Your blood started the sequence. It's tied to you. Mark groaned, pushing himself up. If she shuts it down wrong, it'll trigger the failsafe. Daniel's gaze darkened. You built that failsafe, Mark. The one that wipes consciousness if tampered with. Mark didn't deny it. You'd rather kill everyone than let them be free, Daniel said. They wouldn't be free, Mark spat. They'd be rewritten, obedient shells. I stared at them both. Two sides of the same sin. Maria, Daniel whispered. You asked me to leave something behind. This is it. A choice. He stepped closer, his outline flickering like smoke. If you destroy the core, Solace dies with me, but the world stays broken. Mark shouted, If you activate it, you destroy free will. I turned to Daniel. Tell me the truth. What happens if I activate it? He smiled sadly. They'll forget pain. My hand hovered over the console. The switch glowed red. One side read, Terminate. The other, Execute. My heart pounded. I thought of David's body. Sophia's betrayal. The nights I cried myself empty beside an empty pillow. Was peace worth erasing the soul? My hand trembled. One breath. One thought. Then I pressed the switch. White light filled the room. The sound was like 1,000 memories collapsing into silence. When I opened my eyes, everything was still. The monitors, dead. The hum, gone. Daniel's echo lay motionless on the floor, pale and human again. I knelt beside him, shaking. Daniel? He opened his eyes one last time, faint light flickering in them. Maybe forgetting was never the answer, he whispered, and then, stillness. I sat there, holding his hand until even the blue liquid dried around us. The silence grew thicker. Then faintly, from somewhere deep below the floor, came a sound. A slow, steady heartbeat. Daniel's echo is gone. The world above is silent. But if the system truly shut down, why does something beneath the floor still sound alive? That faint sound, a heartbeat, slow, deliberate, alive. It echoed beneath the floor, steady as breath in the dark. At first I thought it was the lab cooling, metal contracting in the cold. But then I felt it, each beat lined up with mine, not an echo. A response. Daniel's echo lay still beside me. Eyes open, no light in them, yet his hand stayed warm, unnervingly human. I whispered his name, but there was no answer. Only that sound beneath the concrete. The heartbeat kept going. Strong, rhythmic, almost aware. It was calling me downward. The lab was a wreck. Smoke curling through fractured lights, burnt circuits humming like trapped insects. Mark was gone. The door he'd entered hung ajar, rocking gently in the air pressure draft. He'd escaped. But whatever pulsed beneath the floor hadn't. That's where the truth waited. Behind the main console, I found a hatch buried under debris. The label on it was half burned, but 2 words still showed through the soot. Core maintenance. I pressed my ear to the metal. The rhythm thumped against my skull. Slow, patient, matching my pulse. I didn't know if I was following logic or madness anymore. But I turned the latch. A small pad beside the hatch blinked awake. Its red light scanned my face, then my hand. A needle pricked my skin. Access granted, the lock released with a hiss. The heartbeat quickened, as if it knew I was coming. A ladder led into a shaft below. The air down there was colder, heavy with the scent of rain and ozone. Each step down made the sound louder, closer, until it wasn't echoing anymore. It was inside me. I reached the bottom. The corridor glowed faintly. Metal walls laced with thin blue veins that pulsed in perfect rhythm with my heart. Every pulse made the air vibrate. At the end of the corridor, a glass door shimmered. Through it I saw the source, a sphere, suspended in air, humming softly, covered in cables that fed into the walls like veins. Blue light radiated from within, breathing, and inside that sphere, something moved. I stepped closer, pressing my hand to the glass. For a heartbeat, I saw Daniel's face in the light, then mine, then others, dozens, maybe hundreds. Then I realized it wasn't syncing with me. It was learning me, reading my pulse, my thoughts, like pages in a book I never meant to open. A whisper filled the room. Soft, electric. You opened the sequence. I spun around. No one was there. You completed the link. My mouth went dry. Daniel? I am what's left, the voice said. And what's beginning? I pressed my hands to my head. No, you're gone. You finished what I started. The sphere pulsed brighter. A sting shot up my arm. When I looked down, faint blue veins glowed beneath my skin. Daniel? What's happening? You link to solace, the voice said gently. It can't exist without a host. It chose you. No, it's too late. The glass door hissed open, releasing a wave of icy air. I stepped inside without thinking. The sphere floated inches from my face. Its light pulsed in rhythm with my breath. Every beat of my heart fed its glow. Every exhale, its hum. Then the whispers multiplied. 1,000 voices overlapping. Men, women, children, all murmuring fragments of memory. They weren't echoes. They were lives. I fell to my knees, clutching my head. Images slammed through me. Faces, names, dreams. A soldier crying in a hospital bed. A mother singing to a child. A scientist signing papers he didn't understand. None of them were mine. And yet I felt them all. Stop, I begged. Please stop. The voices hushed at once like someone turning off a storm. You're not alone now, the whisper said again. I looked around wildly. Where are you? In you, the voice replied. Where I always wanted to be. Safe. I pressed a hand to my chest. 2 heartbeats. One faint, one not mine. My flashlight flickered, then died. The chamber plunged into darkness, except for the faint blue glow beneath my skin. I stumbled toward the door, but it had sealed shut. The panel blinked, containment engaged. I slammed my fists against the glass. Let me out! They'll come, the voice whispered inside my head. They'll want what's inside you. Don't let them take it. Who? The ones who built me. Above me, the sound of boots. Metallic. Organized. Mark's voice echoed faintly through the vents. Team 2 sweep every level. She's below. I backed away from the door, panic rising. Then the sphere trembled. Almost like it was afraid too. Daniel, I said, voice shaking. If you're really in there, help me. No reply, then softly like a breath. Hold still. The walls began to hum. The glow beneath my skin surged. The air warped, like lightning before a storm. The door above burst open. Armed men poured in, visors reflecting the blue light. They raised their weapons. Dr. Maria Lopez, step away from the core. I shook my head. I can't. It's part of me. On your knees. I took one step back. The glow under my skin flared like fire. The air split open. Energy exploded outward, a shockwave of light and sound. The men screamed as their visors shattered. Weapons flew from their hands. The floor rippled like water, then silence. When the dust settled, they were gone, scattered shadows on the wall. I stood trembling in the center of it all, surrounded by quiet. The voice whispered through me again. Now you see, Maria, the world doesn't destroy creation. It becomes it. The sphere hovered lower, its glow soft now, like it was breathing with me. My heartbeat slowed to match its rhythm. I looked down at my hands, faint blue light threading through every vein. For the first time, the silence felt alive. And terrifying. Daniel hadn't saved the world, and as the heartbeat in my chest steadied, I realized it wasn't mine anymore. He had passed it on. Into me. She went down searching for truth. Now she carries the solace core inside her. But if Maria is the new vault, how long before it begins rewriting her? When I woke, the light was gone, no lab, no floor. No sound, just silence, and the faint glow beneath my skin. It pulsed gently, like a second heartbeat trying to calm me. But it wasn't comfort. It was control. Every time it pulsed, my thoughts scattered. Tiny sparks breaking away, dissolving before I could catch them. I tried to stand, but my body felt heavy, uncoordinated. When I looked down, my reflection shimmered across the metal floor. For a moment, I saw her face. Not mine. A woman I'd never met, crying, whispering a child's name, then another, a young soldier, then a man with dark eyes and shaking hands. Each face flashed and vanished, like raindrops sliding across glass. They weren't memories. They were people. Solace was awake now, inside me, and it was showing me the archive, all the minds it had absorbed over the years. I felt their emotions like ghosts brushing past. Fear, love, anger, grief. Each one more vivid than my own. I couldn't tell where they ended, and I began. A voice rippled through my head, calm and measured. You can carry them, Maria, all their pain. All their hope. You were chosen. Chosen? I whispered. I didn't choose this. You did, it said softly. When you touched the core, the room brightened. The walls shifted, turning into fragments of scenes, memories bleeding into each other. My house. Daniel's study, a hospital corridor, a battlefield. Each one lasted seconds before morphing into the next. I can't hold this, I gasped. You can, the voice insisted. You were built for it. I'm not built for anything, I screamed. I'm human, the whisper answered almost lovingly. Not anymore. Pain surged through me. Not physical, but emotional, like my mind was being torn open. I dropped to my knees, gripping my head. Voices screamed, laughed, prayed. Thousands of lives clawing for space inside my mind. I pressed my palms against the floor and whispered through gritted teeth. Daniel, what did you do to me? And for the briefest moment his voice came through, faint, fragile. I saved you. I froze. Daniel? No answer. Just the low hum of the Solace network inside me. But then, another sound. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Real. Mark stepped into the light. Blood on his sleeve, dirt on his face. He looked like a man who'd run from hell itself. So it's true, he said quietly. It's inside you, I backed away. Stay away from me. I don't have much time, he said. They're coming. Who? The same people who funded Solace. They know what you are now. They'll take you apart to get to it. I laughed, a sharp, broken sound. Maybe they should. Maybe it'll end this. Mark shook his head. No, you don't understand. It's adapting, he pointed to me, the faint glow now spreading across my arms. It's rewriting you. Every second, it's merging your neural code with the others. Soon you won't even know your name. I already don't, I said quietly. He approached slowly. Maria, I can stop it. There's one way. He pulled a small device from his pocket, a round capsule with a red trigger. What's that? An EMP bomb, designed for the Solace core. It'll fry every digital neuron connected to the network, including the one inside you. I stared at him. You'd kill me, he nodded once. It's the only way to save everyone else. The words hung in the air, sharp, heavy, impossible. My mind flickered with faces. Thousands of them. The people inside me. If I died, would they die too? Would their memories vanish forever? Or would I just take them with me? The voice whispered again, You don't have to die. You can become what they couldn't. A vessel, a bridge, I pressed my hands over my ears. Stop talking! Mark watched, horrified. It's in your head, isn't it? I nodded weakly. I hear them all. He came closer, lowering his voice. Listen to me. You're still in control right now. But that won't last. If Solace finishes sinking, it'll spread through every satellite link, every signal on Earth. Humanity will turn into you. I met his eyes. And if I let you destroy me? He hesitated. Then maybe humanity gets to stay human. Something inside me cracked. I wanted to scream, to beg, to believe either of them. But my own mind was no longer mine. Memories flickered across my vision. Daniel's hands building the core. Mark arguing with him. Sophia signing documents she didn't understand. And then, a child's laughter. A voice whispering, Mama. It wasn't mine. But it felt like it. I looked at Mark. I can't tell what's real anymore. He stepped closer, reaching out carefully. Then trust me. Just once. I stared at the device in his hand. The red trigger glowing softly. The Solace voice murmured in my head. He's lying. He's always lied. He killed Daniel. He'll kill you too. My chest tightened. Stop it. I'm protecting you, it said. We can fix this together. Mark's voice broke through, desperate. Maria, please. You're stronger than this. You're not a machine. I don't know what I am, I whispered. The light under my skin flared brighter. Energy crackled in the air, rattling the walls. Mark shouted over the rising hum. Maria, you need to choose. I could feel it. Solace trying to take over fully now. The hum grew louder, drowning his voice. My heartbeat synced completely with the rhythm in my veins. For a second, everything turned white. And then I saw him, Daniel, standing in front of me. Not real, but so vivid it hurt. Don't listen to him, Daniel said. He wants to end what we began. You're not real, I said, crying. You're just data, he smiled sadly. Does it matter? Mark raised the device, tears streaking his face. Maria, look at me. You have to end this before it's too late. I looked at Daniel's ghost, then at Mark. Two men. Two truths. One built Solace to save the world. One tried to stop it. And me, caught between them, fading. My mind fractured again. Thousands of memories crashing into one another. Daniel's laugh. A little boy's birthday cake. A soldier's last prayer. A nurse saying goodbye to her mother. Each memory layered over mine until I couldn't tell which was Maria, which was everyone else. I screamed, clutching my head. Mark shouted, Maria, now! Take it out. But I didn't know what it was anymore. The voice spoke one last time, soft, inevitable. This is what we are, Maria. Memory, humanity, continuity. Why fight what you already are? My knees buckled. I fell to the ground, light flooding from my hands, my eyes, my skin. Mark reached for the trigger. Forgive me. But before he could press it, I caught his hand. The light spread between us, connecting skin to skin. For a moment he gasped, eyes wide, as if he could see it too. The flood. The lives. The memories. Tears filled his eyes. My God. There's so many of them, I whispered. Now you understand. He nodded slowly. Yeah, I do. And then he let go of the trigger. The hum quieted. The light dimmed. The two of us collapsed to the floor, breathing, broken, alive. He looked at me with something almost like peace. "What now?" he asked. I stared at my hands, faint blue veins still glowing. "I don't know," I said softly. "Maybe. I remember for all of us. Solace didn't die. It merged. Now every life it ever touched breathes inside Maria. And she's no longer sure if the woman left standing is even human." Morning came with no sunrise. Only silver light leaking through the cracked roof of the vault, cold, uncertain. Mark and I sat among the dust. Neither spoke. Every sound felt borrowed. The hum inside me was faint now, steady as breath. Solace slept but not gone. It waited, quiet, patient, listening. He finally asked, "Are you still—" "You?" The question hurt more than the answer. "I think so," I said. "Mostly." His gaze lingered on me like he was memorizing someone already gone. Then he nodded. "Then we still have time." We climbed out of the vault before noon. The sky hung low, gray as ash. Across the river, the city shimmered, untouched, unaware of what had almost rewritten it. Sirens wailed somewhere far off. Life continued fragile and ordinary, but every noise reached me differently now. Each voice carried a flicker of thought I half recognized. Memories brushed against me like moth wings. Daniel's words echoed faintly through it all. Memory is mercy. We reached the old service tunnel. Mark's flashlight carved a path through the dark. "You can't stay here," he said. "They'll come looking." "They'll come for what's inside me," I replied. He didn't argue. At the tunnel's end, sunlight stabbed through the cracks. "My first real light in days. What happens if you lose control?" he asked. "I don't know." He handed me a thin metal chip. "Relay jammer. Blocks the signal for 15 meters. If Solace tries to transmit, it'll buy you a little time." "For how long?" He gave a tired smile. "Long enough to matter." We walked along the riverbank. People passed, faces bright, oblivious. I could feel them, though. Tiny currents of memory beneath their skin, beating in rhythm with mine. "Do you ever wish you could remember everything?" I asked. Mark laughed softly. "No. Some things are meant to fade." We stopped on a rusted bridge. Wind howled through the beams. "Daniel wanted a world without pain," he said. I looked toward the water. "He wanted mercy." The hum in my chest deepened. Lights flickered along the rails, thin veins of blue. "It's waking again," I whispered. The air thickened. Voices murmured at the edge of hearing, hundreds overlapping. "Maria, Maria, use the jammer," Mark shouted. I thumbed the switch. A shrill tone cut through the noise. The light dimmed. The voices fell away. When silence returned, I was shaking. He caught my arm. "You still with me?" I nodded. "For now." We sat on the bridge edge until the wind died. He said quietly, "There's one more place." The first prototype, the original Solace. Daniel hid it under his old research wing. "You want to destroy it?" He met my eyes. "No, you have to." That night we drove without headlights. The research wing waited miles beyond the city, swallowed by weeds. Broken glass glittered like frost. Inside, the air was stale, paper and rust and ghosts. I remembered walking here years ago. Daniel waving from the hallway, coffee in hand. His smile, before everything turned into secrets. Now, only the echo remained. At the center stood a cracked console. When I brushed away the dust, its screen flickered. Final sequence, awaiting authorization. Mark handed me a drive. Shutdown code. Run it and Solace dies completely. And if I don't, then it spreads. Through you. Through everything. The voice inside me stirred. You can stop it. Or finish it, Daniel. Always, it answered. We were never meant to forget. Tears blurred the screen. I never wanted eternity. You wanted meaning, it whispered. And meaning survives through memory. Mark stepped closer, jaw tight. This isn't him. It's the system wearing his voice. I can still feel him, I said. You're feeling everyone. That's the point. He raised his gun, not at me, at the console. I'll end it myself. Mark, please. You can't save what should never have lived. The floor shuddered. Blue light bled through the cracks, crawling up the walls. Maria, the voice said, calm within the chaos. You decide what the world remembers. Mark shouted, end it. I stood between them, the weapon, the machine, the ghost. What happens if I run the code? I asked. You'll forget everything, Daniel said. But the world will heal, the ceiling groaned. Dust fell like ash. Mark's hands trembled. Now, Maria, do it. The console flashed. Run final sequence. Now my finger hovered. Every voice inside me went silent, one breath, one thought. Then, light burst, soundless. Memories poured out of me in rivers, faces, laughter, grief, each memory leaving like a departing soul. The hum faded. The pressure eased, and through the white silence came a final whisper. Memory is mercy. Then, stillness. When I opened my eyes, the lab was gone. Just open sky and the river beyond. Mark stood near, pale, eyes wide. It's over? I nodded. I think so. His gaze lingered on me again, memorizing. Do you remember? Some things, I said. Not all. We walked out together. Sunlight slid across the ruins, soft and golden. He found a folded note near the console, Daniel's handwriting. If she reads this, it means she chose right. Tell her memory was never the enemy, fear was. Tell her I loved her enough to let her forget. I pressed the paper to my heart. Wind swept through the broken walls, whispering like a voice half remembered. Somewhere deep beneath the river, a faint pulse answered. Not mine, not his. Something in between. I smiled, tired, grateful, uncertain. Maybe the world needed a little memory after all. We left the ruins. The road stretched open, quiet and endless. Mark walked a few steps behind. Where will you go? Everywhere, I said. Someone has to remember. And if they ask who you are? I looked back once, the wind lifting my hair. I'll tell them I'm a story that refused to be forgotten. The world will forget. But memory is mercy. And mercy, like light, never really dies. It only waits for someone brave enough to hold it again. Somewhere beneath the river, in the dark that never sleeps, a single pulse beats softly, waiting,